Okay, so today I am here with my friend Jenny, and Jenny is an artist, a storyteller, a Web3 blockchain enthusiast, a mother, and an all around dope human being who does cool stuff. So that's my short bio on Jenny. So, Jenny, if you want to give like the listeners a lowdown on like a little bit about what you do, that would be awesome.
I mean, you kind of summed it up there.
Just all around dope human being.
Yeah. Yeah, I make stuff. I draw. I use AI. I write. I help a lot of people. That was my main goal, actually, is helping people coming into the NFT, blockchain, Web3 space. And yeah, I'm a mom of four, so I'm kind of constantly doing something and up to my elbows in mess, but it's okay.
Uh-huh. So, let me ask you this. How long have you been doing art, and like what was your first medium that you were starting to do art on?
I have been doing art my whole life, but really it was more of doodles. My very first medium was actually my wall in my closet and a pencil for my school.
Really?
That's, yeah, yes.
So,
I would make little doodles.
that's really cool. Wait, so basically you're saying your first medium was the wall, like in your house?
Yeah, yeah, I wrote all over my closet. My closet was filled with, I mean, literally filled with stuff.
That's pretty rad. So, I know you were just mentioning you were talking about your AI art. So, and like I love the AI art that you do. Um, so tell me like a little bit about how you got into AI art and what it was so intriguing about it to you. Um, I guess we'll start with that because I totally have some more questions about AI art.
Yeah, definitely. So I had been not harassing, but I guess messaging frequently one of the members in this space, I think since November, about generative art, AI art, things like that. And being the wonderful person that they were, they just loaded me up with resources and were like, have at it, right? Um, so I went down the rabbit hole for a couple of months, and in January, I started playing with. I tried to do the coding in the visual. I think it's Visual Studio Code, but my computer kept like it was awful. It kept freezing. I couldn't get through anything. So I kept searching, and I found that you can do in like a collab notebook. So like you can use the GPU of something else if you don't have it, I guess. And that kind of opened a whole new world up for me, because I could take advantage of tweaking some of the things if I needed to. But you don't necessarily have to have coding knowledge because there's just like point and click too. But it lets you create these images that you see in your head, even if you don't have like the skills or the ability to do it immediately. I mean, obviously you can learn it over time, but the AI allows you to get it out like at that moment when you have that idea.
hmm So, so for people who, I guess AI art is it's definitely like a newer concept that like the general public is still. I don't even know. Maybe not a lot of people know about it because like I am just learning about it and I've messed around with it as well. Honestly, due to the introduction that you gave me and a few other members of like the community that I guess we're kind of a part of. So if you could kind of tell like people who are listening, like what is AI, like what is a prompt, I guess, to start, and like what is AI art? In short, nothing. You don't have to go like too crazy into it, you know.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good question. So there's different. It's not all under one blanket. There's different types. There's mathematical that actually produces images based on mathematical equations. It's primarily code based. Well, it is code based, but as opposed to using an image database, they're using numbers, math, equations, things like that to produce amazing patterns and color, just art blocks. I mean, it's really cool what you see, I guess, if that makes sense. The outcomes.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what, like, when you are involved with AI art, what are you thinking? Like, how do you come up with prompts, and like, how in depth do you go before, like, thought process wise, before you put the prompt out? Like, how much thought process goes into some of your prompts? And I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that probably differs prompt to prompt. And maybe once you get, like, I don't know, whatever. I don't even want to answer your question. So I'm probably going too far. But like, yeah, like what goes into your thought process of like creating a piece?
Um, so I'm a storyteller. I like to tell stories and I like to read. I also like to write. So I usually have a lot to think about first. What do, what can I, what is there missing? Like, what can I not find right now? Where can I escape to? That's what my thing is. Like, I want to go to these worlds. I want to see these things. Like, how can I do that? And that's kind of where my prompts come from. A place for me to escape, a place for me to imagine, a place for me to, you know, just not have to be in the four walls that I'm in right now, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I really do like, that's awesome that you mentioned like the storytelling aspect, because like I think it's really cool what you do with, like, specifically the book that you just did, um and I'm gonna butcher the name, Dragons of Arbeliza.
Arabeliza.
Arabeliza, I'm so sorry.
Yep. It's okay.
Arabeliza. So I really liked what you did with that, and I think it's really cool how you're tying in, like, not only are you like creating these really mesmerizing pieces, but you're also tying them to a story, which, like, I think is a really cool use case for AI art. So yeah, I don't know. I really dig what you do when it comes to like combining your storytelling abilities and the AI art that you're doing. So like, I guess if you want to kind of segue into your book, and if you want to go in a little bit of like depth about like how that book came about, and was the story first, was the art first, like I'm curious to know like how you kind of came up with that whole concept, if you don't mind me asking.
No, yeah, definitely. So I never really had children's books on my radar, but I started the actual collection, the NFT collection, with an overall idea that there would be a story or stories from it, right? And I wanted a beginning. So, like, everything, all of my NFTs are taking place in Arabeliza, right? Everything. And the original descriptions were stories. But I was like, it's too much to have to do description by description. I'm going to put it all in a book. So the dragons, that's the beginning of Arabeliza. That's the number one. Like, that's how it started. They're the first inhabitants, and it's going to go on from there. The story has always kind of been there. Jenny B, that is, it's kind of a take. I used to, so when I was younger, I always had this character, Genevieve, right? And she's like the heroine. She's like the one who's chosen, the one who goes and does everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my name is Jenny. Born name is Jennifer, but I've always been called Jenny. So I just kind of tied Genevieve into Jenny B. It's a story, right? But that the AI gave me the ability to not only have the story in my head, but kind of actually see it. And everyone was more like, oh, but it's like children, dark fairy tale, fairy tale. So that's how I ended up doing the children's book instead of the other type of book I was originally going to do. And I made it more, especially the dragons, more of not a dark fairy tale, but not necessarily, bright and I don't know how to explain it. Like, because I've never really been that normal, and I think a lot of kids might have, I don't know. When I was little, my favorite book was The Stinky Cheese. So I wanted something that was beautiful and interesting, but not cookie cutter, I guess.
Yeah, no, honestly, like reading the book, I totally like. I don't know. I was very intrigued, and I'm not. I'm just like being completely honest. Yeah, I could definitely see how like it could be a children's book, but like honestly gave me like obviously it's not like Harry Potter, but it gave me like the vibes of like I could watch this or listen, read this as like an adult as well and also as a kid. Like I feel like it's like a best of both worlds situation, at least in my opinion. I mean, that's just my opinion though.
That's awesome. And I was kind of going for that too. Because also, like, my kids are all different ages. My oldest is 16, my youngest is 8. So I kind of wanted something that we could all kind of look at as a family together and not like one be super bored or one be like, oh, that's so cool. But the other one be like, oh, well, you're a baby. I didn't want that. I wanted something that everybody can kind of take something out of.
Yeah, and that's really cool too, because it's like, because if I'm not mistaken, you told me that your your children are actually really enjoy this book as well. If I'm
Yep.
not mistaken, right?
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. They really do. My daughter, Lucy, she's 11 and she loves the pictures. She's not huge on reading, but she loves the pictures. My 16-year-old, same, she loves the pictures. My son, he loves reading. He loves everything from Pete the Cat to the Stinky Cheese to God knows what. And he loves it. Like, he loves the pictures. He loves to read it. And even my 13-year-old, so she's actually in a spectrum for autism. It was
Hmm.
really cool to see her kind of actually pick it up and look at it and not be like, I'm just not, like, if it's not realistic, it's not happening. And she was actually kind of into it. So it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to ask about before we get in, because I was gonna kind of go into. I know you've introduced your children into like Web3 and NFTs, but I kind of want to like reverse a little bit because we've gone over a little bit about like who you are, some of the things that you've created, but like I want to back up and kind of ask you about if you're cool with that, of course, and ask you about like your introduction to blockchain and NFTs and how you found out about this technology, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, definitely. So last year, I was I was working and just doing my little doodles. I did it a lot on calls because they were kind of stressful. And my daughter, she was like, "Mom," because she was playing with Photoshop at the time. It was for she's homeschooled, so it was like for her art. And she's like, "Mom, why don't you try making those? On the Photoshop." And I was like, "Well, maybe we can see, right?" And I had earlier read something about NFTs for good. A way to give back, a way to kind of make an impact, right? And I did a little bit of research on it, and it seemed like something I really wanted to get into. So I started making some of the, excuse me, my original drawings, and I jumped into Twitter, and there was just an abundance of information, right? Like, I learned about crypto because I didn't know about crypto, right? I learned about crypto. I learned about Web3. I learned about the blockchain technology, decentralization. I mean, it it was just a plethora of information. The more I learned, the more I knew exactly where I wanted to be. And it was really a great experience.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like once you like get a whiff of this technology and take that deep dive and go down the rabbit hole, like the more doors open up for us as creators as to like, how we can use this technology and, integrate it into how we move forward with kind of making certain, like I don't want to say digital assets, but more so just like bits and pieces of our story and how we can tell it through blockchain and in NFTs and things of that nature. So I guess like what excites you most about NFTs and Web3?
I think the decentralization process of it, or us as individuals being able to have a little bit more power over, you know, over different things, I guess. So, like, hopefully in the future, identity documents. I'm really hoping, I know some countries are already doing it. I'm really hoping that we can kind of integrate that into the blockchain, because it would make a lot more sense than having a paper document that can only be replaced so many times, can be lost, can be stolen, can be whatever. But if it's on the blockchain, it's there unless the entire system goes down. It makes so much more sense. I don't know,
Hmm.
stuff like that. I think that's really exciting to me, to see like documents as NFTs, or passes. Like I think, what was it, Gary V. They recently had the tickets. They were like an NFT, right? Things like that. I don't know about you, but I keep everything like memories. I keep my wristband from my art show I went to. I keep everything. So if I could have that somewhere like forever, I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree because it's like I've totally had instances where I've been to like, a festival or a show and like yeah, I don't know, I'm so bad with saving stuff, so all that stuff is probably just, in the ether at this point, but it would be really cool to like still have that like memorabilia in digital form,
Oh yeah.
which I think is like tied to like our identity as well, like and like the communities that we take part in. And of course, like as we transition more from like an analog world to a digital world, I don't know, I feel like those experiences are going to be all digitalized, like imagine if back in the day, like I don't know, Woodstock had an NFT or something.
I mean, that would be really, really cool. And it's something that you could, I'm so sorry, I keep yawning. It
No,
would be
you're
something
good.
that you could pass, you could physically pass down. And technically, it would be like an antique on the blockchain, because, by the time my grandchildren are adults, I mean, it might be Web 6, who knows? But potentially, it could be something that could be passed down through generations and gain value and not deteriorate. Because, like, if you have a signed autograph of, I don't know, Michael Jordan, whatever, right?
Hmm.
And you want to save that somewhere, it's going to be a lot of money one day. You want to save it somewhere for your children, your grandchildren. It's going to, like, it's a paper. Unless you put it in like some protective museum, whatever, it's going to deteriorate, or accidents happen, floods, storms, you move, you misplace it. But if it's on the blockchain, it's there, it's
Yeah.
there. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really exciting time. I feel like um just to be creating, like there's so much opportunity out there, and especially with like the potential of just like I don't know, social media is now at scale, and I know like the whole like I understand why like web 2 gets a bad rap, but I also do see like the half glass full side of like the potential of like being able to put yourself out there now
Mm-hmm.
versus like 10 to 20 years ago, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I think we're in for like an exciting time because it's like we're in the middle of like a transition between I guess Web 2 and Web 3 and I don't know. I just feel like we're in a freaking cool time, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I think we're just everyone says, oh, we're no longer early, but I still think we're at the beginning. Like I think there's so much more to come, and I feel like AI is going to be really incorporated into Web3 as well because it's gonna be like assistants and stuff, and machine learning is huge right now, and I feel like that's going to be that automated process is going to help so many people, like writers, authors, teachers, students, like everybody can benefit from it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's pretty wild just to like even like some of the things you can do with AI that aren't even necessarily tied to like Web 3, like I don't know, quillbot or something
Yep.
is like have you heard of quillbot?
I think that's the one I'm not sure if it's the same one that someone showed me, but for example, they literally just put an idea in. It was like the idea about my book. And I swear this machine like wrote 3 paragraphs that were like the most interesting thing I ever read in my life. It was crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, cuz you can like literally put in like a whole paragraph and then you could have the AI like whatever, we're going off on a rant now, but you could have like the AI like paraphrase the whole thing and have it
That's
like create a whole different like paragraph from what you wrote.
that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm like I don't know. It is pretty wild because I honestly would have never learned about AI and like I knew about it a little bit, but like ever since I've gotten involved with like the Web3 community and like you and a few other people, like whatever, I don't want to just start dropping names cuz I don't want to like if people aren't cool with that, but you know you probably know like who I'm talking about. But like I don't know. I think it's really awesome that you probably as well have been exposed to like all of this like I guess they call it alpha or whatever, but just like really interesting people who know a lot of things that I would have and maybe you would have never known unless like, you know,
Oh
you
yeah.
like the web3 if you weren't involved with the web3 space.
Oh yeah.
But okay. So, I'm going to ask you maybe this is for an artist who doesn't know about web3 or has heard about NFTs and web3 and blockchain, but if you were to give advice to any artist wanting to get into Web3, what would it be?
Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so sorry.
Take your time.
I'm so sorry about
Yeah,
that.
you're good.
Okay, so what advice would I give an artist coming into Web3 or
What so if you were to give any advice to an artist wanting to get into Web3, maybe they've heard about it before, maybe they heard about NFTs, maybe someone said, "Hey, you should get into NFTs" or something like that. What would be your advice to that artist who maybe wants to learn more or get involved or I don't know, just like any advice to an artist who is very new to the concepts of Web3?
Okay, yeah, definitely. Um, I would say that if they're going to come into the space, if they're curious, I wouldn't focus on money first of all, because a lot of the news channels kind of focus on, oh yeah, so and so made X thousands of dollars overnight. That's not realistic. I would tell them to focus on community, to build and grow within their community and to focus on building and growing within themselves, and to take it seriously. It's not, yes, there's a lot of degens. Yes, there's that, YOLO, wag me, whatever. But at the end of the day, if they're serious about coming to the space and want to actually thrive, they need to treat it, responsibly as a business. You have to have that mindset that it's not going to be overnight. That's the biggest thing, I guess.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, like you said, you hear all the headlines, you hear, you know, the homie made millions of dollars, whatever. And of course, like you're like, wow, like there's an opportunity for me to maybe make this happen. But yes, I do feel like, of course, like you hear it all the time. It's like, I guess like having the whole community aspect, and I don't know. I firmly believe what you said when it comes to, if you're focusing on the money first, then I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but you might be doing it wrong. Is all I'm saying. Because I don't know. I feel like there's more to what we're doing here than just money. And I know it sounds like super like artisty, like, oh,
Yep.
the money, blah blah blah. But
I mean, realistically, yes, we're human. Yes, we need money to survive. I mean, without money, you can't live these days, unfortunately. But at the same time, if you have a job, if you are working, don't just quit your job and go YOLO into the space. That's not responsible.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. That's the best advice I can do. And like, especially the community is so important because it's not Web 2 and it's not there is a competition, but it's really not between artists, it's more of build together, grow together. If you want to grow, if you want to make those sales, then you better be helping other people too, because it's not, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. No, I definitely think it's. I think in general, and this is just my opinion, but this technology will be so mainstream at some point that like just being here and like trying to find collectors, which it's great to have people who want to support you and collect you, but I don't think in the long term that's necessarily going to be enough. I think if you stay true to yourself in your craft and you build with authenticity and you don't focus so much on how can I find the most amount of collectors in a short amount of time, I think you'll do really well if you just focus on like building what you want to build when it comes to like your story and maybe your brand and like who you want to work with and things like that. But that's just my opinion.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to be able to kind of curate what you want and where you want to go and focus on that as well. I agree.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so yeah, thank you for answering that. And I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, I know you mentioned you have gotten your children into Web3. I am genuinely curious to know how you had introduced them to Web3.
When I started making my first project, I actually did it alongside with my 7-year old. He's 8 now, and my 10-year old who's now 11. And as I learned, they learned along with me. So I guess that's the best way to explain it. They just kind of learned everything I did at the same time I did. My older two aren't quite ready for it yet. They know bits and pieces, but they're not as gung ho as my younger two.
hmm So the younger two are more intrigued by it than your older children?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, excuse me.
No, you're good.
Yeah. My oldest is very traditional. She's very artistic in herself. She's very much, I don't want to say skeptical. She's just not ready yet.
hmm
Yeah.
That's cool. So, if you don't mind me asking, could you tell me a little bit about the pixel Germits? Did I pronounce that
Yeah.
wrong?
No, yeah, you got it right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Pixel Germats are my first project with my kids. And it was kind of funny because I always made little doodles, right? Like random things. And my daughter, she was like, those kind of look like aliens. Well, maybe germs. And I'm like, okay, so they're like mutts. They're a mix of I don't know what. And they're germs, so germuts, right? And then we just kind of went from there.
So this project was created, like you created this project with your children or with a few of your children?
Yep. With my son and my daughter, they actually made a few themselves. And the story of how they escaped and the actual stories that we're going to be having on the website, they have helped me create them. The project itself is kind of on pause right now because I'm trying to figure a way to token gate certain things. But basically, the in Genesis or the initial Germats, there's only 200. There will only ever be 200. There's never going to be any more of those. Every early collector who originally like collected one gets an evolved Germat, and they're more like a realistic kind of 3D type. Because what's going to happen is these pixel Germats, as cute as they are, they're going to kind of bounce into a more, I don't want to say realistic world, but like a cool kind of like story comic book mode. But it's just taking some time to kind of get the logistics out. But it's my baby. It's the first project. My kids love them, and they've kind of gotten their own little characters. I actually can't wait for everyone to see them. Just got to get everything fixed before I release it because I don't want it to look rushed or, you know.
Yeah, no, I feel you. That's awesome because I remember. So, did some of those collectors get the airdrop yet, or are you still doing that? Oop,
I'm so sorry.
no, you're good.
My, I'm sorry. I didn't hear because my daughter was coming in the room.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I was curious to know, did your Pixel Germits collectors get the airdrop of the more realistic Germits yet?
They are, and that's the thing. So they are coming out little by little. Right now, I think I don't know what number I'm on. I gotta check. The evolved Germats are currently, they're coming out little by little. Sorry.
No, no worries. So when it comes to the Germits in your evolved Germit, what is the process of like artistically from pixel Germit to evolved Germit? Like, what is the evolved Germit? Like, what's the medium that you're using to create the evolved Germit?
Yeah, definitely. So the process is that the original Germet is put through the AI, so into the imaging, the algorithm, and with a text prompt, basically. And the AI will put out a slightly realistic, not like realistic, but like a 3D kind of advanced image. It's almost never correct. So I have to take it and I have to cut it up or do multiple images and cut them up and piece them back together in Procreate. I usually draw over it, add in backgrounds, add in different details. I add in shading. So a lot of it is created in Procreate, and that's why it takes so long to do each one. I've only gotten 12 so far done, and I think owner wise, I have quite a few. But yeah, it's a process.
That's really cool. I think I love the concept of like having evolved pieces and using blockchain to, I guess, distribute the evolution of some of your art. Like the concept of like maybe having a piece of art that like for me, I'm a musician, so a song that maybe is an idea that evolves into something that's a little bit more polished and that I would release to the world. So I think it's really cool how you are doing that with the pixel germits, and
Hmm.
I think like that's a really cool use case.
Yeah.
So, and just for anyone who might be listening, um, maybe you're asking what's an airdrop. I don't know if you want to like give like your take on like how you utilize airdrops, maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely. So if okay, so these airdrops, they're on Polygon blockchain, so or the Polygon, so there's no like fee. I do it through OpenSea, and literally I mint it and I drop it into the person's wallet, or I send it to them. However, there are other things like Manifold now that allows you to do like I guess bulk. And there's other marketplaces like that where you can do mint bulk and like series and things like that of images and then send them to your collectors that way. So the technology has advanced.
Yeah, I think airdrops are a really cool concept because, and basically, for example, if someone bought one of Jenny's NFTs and now Jenny has that wallet address that's attached to that NFT, Jenny can then give that person more, I guess, NFTs or tokens because they have that wallet address and that person holds NFTs of hers. So it's like you have access to someone, not access to their wallet, but you have, yeah, not like compromised, but having someone's wallet address, you have the ability to give them more, you know, things that could be potentially attached to maybe the story that you're trying to tell. You know, maybe for example, you have a comic book series and every week you release a new chapter of that series or whatever it may be, you can kind of feed that person's wallet the story that you're trying to tell. That's
Hmm.
just, I guess, an example. But yeah, for anyone who might not know what airdrops are, but that's really cool. So the pixel germits are on Polygon, and I think it's really cool that not only are you on, you know, Polygon, but you're on other chains as well. So I'm curious to know what your thought process is in on different blockchains and how the Web3 artists might be able to utilize different blockchains, or do you see a world where multiple blockchains will have each use case? Or I'm curious to know like what your thoughts on different blockchains are at this moment in time and where we may be heading, because I think, you know, you have certain people who are in, you know, specifically just Ethereum, or you have people who are specifically just, you know, Solana. And I think it's really cool how you are across many blockchains. So I would love to know what you think about the Web3 artist and how they could utilize different blockchains.
Yeah, definitely. So Ethereum is like obviously I want to say the old man of blockchains, but it's like there's a lot of Fmaxis. Everyone wants to like the big collectors are on it. You see like on Super Rare, you see like on an Origin these huge sales for like 50 plus ETH or whatever, right? And that's like the place to be. But if you look at it from a I don't want to say like a universe standpoint, but like the impact it has, right? There's going to be like the okay, so there's like a bunch of coming, supposedly, right? But it's not here yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go over to like I think it's I don't know how to pronounce it, but like Tezos, right?
Mm-hmm.
it's seamless. Like it's really reliable. I don't think I've ever had a problem with Tezos at all. Like minting on it, it's super easy to mint. It's friendly. Like it's not. They're clean. You know, it's not gonna like tear up the environment, and you know you don't have to. It's a lot better for the environment, I guess. And it's still, I don't want to say the newer stages, but it's not as discovered yet. So you can find beautiful, and I mean like, wow, blow your mind pieces of art on this blockchain, on these like object.com and things like that for literally dollars. If you want to convert it over to dollars, like it's nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
These artists are starting here and then blowing up, going to foundation, going to super rare, and then all of a sudden you have this amazing piece of theirs, and you know the flip value, if you're looking to flip, I mean things like that can change really quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also on Tezos you have, I think it's got a really good chance for gaming in the future. I think that's something that can definitely be seen on Tezos. And what was it, Polygon? I think Polygon was another one, but it's like a fork. I forgot what it was on Polygon. Something else is coming to Polygon. I just feel like there's a lot more businesses coming to the chains that are less wear and tear on the ecosystem. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it. Like I'm not,
No,
I'm
I
feeling for
feel you.
words.
I know what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
I think in general, there won't be like one major winner. There'll be a few winners. And I think when you think about how this technology will be at scale, it's not going to be, something that has $20 to $30 gas fees when you buy
Right.
something for $5,
Yes, and that's another thing of Ethereum is the gas right now. Obviously, not as bad, but like, next bull run, forget it. If they haven't gotten the new tech, it's not gonna, it's not. And also the scalability, things like that on Tezos, I prefer it personally, for certain things. And then Solana, I do use Solana, but I don't. It's not decentralized. It's the scalability. It's just it goes down. I don't prefer it, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of Solana.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, the crazy thing too is like Solana is like still technically in a beta test, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So it's, there's a lot, not only are kinks being worked out of like everything that's going on in Web3, but specifically Solana, I feel like more so you're always hearing about an outage or, recently a hack and
Yep.
um yeah, there's totally a lot of things to consider right now when you are choosing which blockchain to mint on. But I think as an artist being involved in Web3 right now, a smart move is to be diverse in which ecosystems you choose to take place in. Because my opinion is it's kind of the same thing as like trying to grow with social media. It's like, don't you want to be on YouTube and on, Instagram or and on TikTok? So I think, like, I don't know, like, you kind of want to be, like, have your hands dipped in a couple different places, and that could be wrong too. And I'm not saying that's right, but that's just, that's just my opinion, I guess.
Right, right. No, and I get that. Like, and I'll be very honest, my growth in this space, like I know several people and, but follower wise, growth wise, like sales wise, it's not huge, it really isn't because I'm not focused. I'm focused on for the long term. I want to build a good foundation so that when I do get to where I'm going, I'm strong, So that's my focus. I mean, that's why I have a little bit here, a little bit there. But there are people in the space who have blown up, who have a huge amount of followers and have a huge amount of sales. But what their focus was is they focused solely on Ethereum, solely in spaces. You know, they only had their one space twice a week, every week, and only had their one collection on Ethereum. Nothing changed, nothing branched out, nothing. But in my opinion, they had this consistency, right? It was perfect for so long. But when all that's done and they didn't branch out, they didn't test the waters anywhere else, what's going to happen when the technology that they're using isn't the technology to be on? Or, you know, when the Twitter spaces aren't the Twitter spaces, like, you know, what's going to happen then? That's my fear. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I feel you. I think in general too, it's like we're still operating in a Web 2 like ecosystem, So I don't know. I genuinely think that like this will be used in different ways and by a lot of different creators. And yeah, maybe you were here doing something, at a small, like, little period in time where you could, bang out Twitter spaces every day and appeal to collectors and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, maybe you made like, a decent amount of money, but my opinion is like, I don't know. Are collectors your community, or are they like that's like a interesting kind of question as well, because I feel like sometimes people get mistaken by what community actually is, and if your collectors are your community, or are they like, I don't know. I don't even know.
It's, I mean, I think that in a sense, yes, they can be, because I have collected from several members of the joint communities I'm in, and they have collected from me. But there are also other collectors who have collected from me, and they're not in my community. They're just people that I happen to meet in a space or through a mutual friend, or they just ran across my collection and I have no clue who they are. But I feel like it's I don't even know. You're right. It's like, I don't know. I will say that there's a very fine line, though, between your community and your collectors and togetherness, because when does it become an exchange? So you buy from me, I buy from you. The money is changing hands, but there's no accumulation, I guess, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't
So
know.
it's like you're saying, okay, so like I bought from you, you bought from me, but at the end of the day, the ecosystem is like isn't growing due to the fact that it's just you giving ETH to person A and then person A giving ETH back to you.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
That's a better example.
Yeah, no, it's totally an interesting point, and like I don't know, how do we kind of get more people involved too? Like, is like also another question. But I guess we could come off that because that's like
That's like
that's like
a,
a crazy. We could do like a whole other interview for that.
oh yeah.
But I guess we'll start to wind it down, and I will ask you, I guess, what is on the horizon for Jenny B?
Oh wow. Well, honestly, I am not, and this is not for forever, but it's for right now. Aside from the evolved Germats, I will not be posting on OpenSea anymore. All future art is going to be on Foundation, Object, or Known Origin, because, and I have Maker's Place as well. But those are the main areas of where I'm going to be putting my work. I plan to get back in spaces. I have 2 spaces scheduled for this upcoming week. I'm really excited because I have an amazing person who is going to be hosting with me and co-hosting with me. So we're going to like kind of switch off.
Nice.
And she's an OG in the space. So I'm super excited. So that's going to be happening here soon. I've been designing. I'm going to be doing a lot more merch. And when I say merch, I mean if my design can go on it, then it's going to be for sale.
Yeah.
And I did apply for some grants. I want to expand into real physical world. I feel like a good place to kind of onboard Web3 is by physically, stickers, flyers, things people can, like tangible items people can hold to kind of draw them in and be like, hey, I did this because I was here. This is where I got the opportunity and the freedom to do this, right?
Hmm.
And of course, my books. I plan to do 5 total, or it was 5 total. The first one's already out, and then I'll have 4 more to kind of bring the whole Arabiliza full circle. I'm working on the second one right now, and that's pretty much everything for right now.
Cool. No,
I've
well,
got a lot going on.
no, that's awesome to hear. And I just want to say, like, again, it's like super nice, like knowing you, and I'm glad like we kind of got to connect through, I guess, Twitter, and through, I guess, the communities that we interact in. So yeah, I appreciate you kind of taking your time to tell the world a little bit about yourself and what you're doing and how you use Web3, how you, the little bit of behind the scenes about your art. So yeah, thank you for taking the time, and everyone should go check out Jenny's links that are probably going to be in the description, because she does really cool stuff and y'all should check it out. So yeah, thanks Jenny for coming on, and yeah, I think that's where we'll cut the recording. Peace out, y'all.